fabulous Ashley Hill with College Prep Ready. She is a scholarship search strategist. And tonight, what we plan to do is share a little bit about our companies as well as answer your questions. We had a webinar that we did last week, and it was a great turnout, but unfortunately we weren't able to answer everyone's questions. So what we decided to do, based on the feedback that we received in the webinar, was go ahead and use Facebook Live as well as IG Live to answer your questions. And so if you are watching us live, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will try to answer them there, but we're also answering those questions that we weren't able to get to. All right, here we go. So let's see, Ashley, let's see if you can see these questions now that we're live. All right. So, can you see it? I can just read it to you anyway, if you can't. Okay.
I can, but I'm listening.
All right. So, the first question that we have from someone, they asked, are there any scholarships for students who are considering doing PhD programs? Well, this particular person asked specifically about women in mental health sector, and then another person asked about medical school. So, I just kind of combined those two as graduate programs.
Sure, great question. So, first, before I get started, Ayo, thank you for having me. I'm excited, and I love talking about this. So, thank you for giving me the space to do that. All right. So, to
Um,
answer the question, let me tackle PhD, then I'll get to med school. So, again, as Ayo just said, a PhD is clearly a graduate program, and so I want to give you two pieces of advice. First of all, because it sounds like you know what area you're going into with women and mental health, I would focus on industry based or career based scholarships first. There are a lot of opportunities for you, and I want you to think beyond scholarships. Don't neglect fellowships. Don't neglect other grant programs, and you can really go directly to your college, your dean's office, your financial aid services, your career services. That's a part of their job is to support you in that way. So definitely don't neglect that, but also don't neglect your other talents and interests and hobbies as well. For medical school, again, it's the professional program. Obviously, number one is medical school. So any scholarships that are awarding funds for medical school, take advantage of that. Again, don't neglect. They don't call them, well, there are fellowships in med school that has a different meaning, but in terms of being a medical student, they do have grant programs for that. Again, seek out your school, seek out local nonprofits. Don't forget your hospitals and local healthcare organizations that also provide funds for that.
awesome, Ashley. Great, great. And so I'm hoping whoever answered that question, they were taking notes because you did definitely provide them a whole bunch of resources that they could probably tap into to find some additional money to fund their programs. All right, so the next question that came in was, if my SAT scores are not the same SAT scores that the college wants, does that mean that I won't be able to get into a college? So I'm going to answer this question kind of in two parts, really. The first part is COVID. Like, what are colleges doing right now when it comes to COVID and students not even really not being able to take the SAT or ACT? A lot of students at this time have the opportunity to not have to take the SAT or ACT because the colleges or university have waived the exam for this incoming freshman class. So if you are graduating in 2021 as a senior, their chances are that you won't have to take it. However, there are some schools that are test flexible. There are some schools that text flex. I'm so sorry. It's 7 o'clock. UPenn has just dropped their results, and so my phone is
That's
blowing up.
good.
So I'm hoping those calls are good. All right. So okay, let me back up. So a lot of schools have gone test optional at this time. So what does that mean? You may not have to take an SAT or ACT. And so with that being said, you could take the exam if you're able to, see what you get, and then now figure out if you want to go ahead and submit that SAT score. So in the case of this student, it looks like the student has looked at what the school has published as their average SAT or ACT score, and they realize that they're out of range. So I'm not going to say that you are totally disqualified. A lot of schools right now are looking at so many other things that go into the application. They're looking at the essays, they're looking at your extracurricular activities, they're looking at your recommendation letters, and they're looking at everything that's being submitted to determine whether or not you're going to be a good fit for them. So I would definitely recommend that if there's a school that you're gunning for that you're falling outside of their range, you might want to go test optional this year, but make sure that every other part of your application is strong. In addition, you want to make sure that your entire list aren't full of schools that are outside of the range, or you're below what the average SAT score is. So you want to make sure that you are looking at, one other thing I want to recommend you look at is if the school is test flexible, they may be willing to take an AP exam or a SAT subject test if you've already taken that, and those are strong scores. So just take that into consideration. But if you have any questions about that, please feel free to contact us. All right. So next question, Ashley, is, let's see. What should I look for in a college besides their major to make my decision? How do I know what best fits for me? So I get this question a lot, especially with students who haven't really maybe done a lot of research on the college or university that they're maybe putting on their list. So the biggest thing that I would recommend for a student that is trying to figure out if a school is the best fit, there's so many different ways you can go about doing this. You can obviously talk to the admissions rep. You could visit the school's website. A lot of these schools are having virtual sessions in the case that you're not able to be on the campus, of course, because of COVID. A lot of campuses have shut down. They have panel discussions. You can maybe reach out to a professor in your major just to kind of understand how your program works and how they support students within the program. Another thing that I would recommend that you do is check out sites like Niche, that sometimes they have the opportunity for current and previous students to share their feedback on their experience on that particular college or university. So there's definitely a couple of different ways that you can look at that. One really good book, if you can get your hands on it, I'm sure at the library, whether at your school or the public library, is the FISC Guide and also the College That Changes Lives. Those two are some good books for some of the liberal arts schools, for the college that changed lives, and then some of the more, I want to say, more popular schools are in the FISC Guide. And then there's one other, oh man, I forgot the name of it. There's a college personality test. It takes you through several different questions that will now at the end determine what type of school you might be best fit at, maybe based on your personality, the way you learn, how you want to engage on campus, and what have you. So if you're interested in learning more about that, just feel free to send me a message and I will send you the link for that. All right. Okay, Ashley, back to you. Okay. Um, let's see. How do we find local scholarships?
So this is a really popular question right now. And let me do a quick commercial. If you missed the webinar, and I'm not just saying this because I was on there, but you missed a lot of good information. And so I really dug into this question really a lot, and actually was really kind of the central kind of focus of it. So, and I know she will put up the link for you, but I don't remember it offhand. But make sure to go and register so you can get the recording, you can get the slides, so you can get the entire conversation. But let me give you the note cliffs, or the cliff notes, cliff notes version. How do you find local scholarships? You can do it in a number of ways. First of all, is if you are in high school, and for those that are watching that support high school students, it's starting there. So it's starting with professionals that this is a part of what they do. I know school counselors and advisors do a ton of other things, but a portion of their job duties are to bring these opportunities to you. So checking in with your local school counselor, I talk a lot about don't leave out local colleges, even if you're not going there,
Hmm.
because they have something called external scholarships, which means that you do not have to be an admitted student to attend there to be eligible for these scholarships. They usually tend to be based on, of course, being local and usually your major. So go ahead and check those out. All the local businesses I shared. I went into depth in the webinar we just did just recently here. But going to your chamber of commerce, taking advantage of those businesses, reaching out to their HR. HR stands for Human Resources, and seeing if they offer scholarships. And then lastly, don't forget your local non-profits. Reach out to them as well because a lot of them do give funding.
Awesome. That is some great, great advice. And one thing that I really like that you mentioned during the webinar, and I actually need to put the link to the webinar in the chat, is the fact that you mentioned that you kind of defined what local is, right? A lot of people just think local is in their city, but you really kind of
Mhm.
gave an explanation of how people can probably start categorizing what they consider local scholarships. Did you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure, I will. And so, what I shared in the webinar is for a long time, and to no fault of anybody, but when you think local, you always think like, my city, Atlanta, Houston, Orlando, you think about your city. But I really want to encourage you, especially in the times that we're living in, is we don't want to leave any money on the table at all. We don't even want to leave a dime
Hmm.
on the table. So when we say local, it's really four levels. It's your immediate area, so it's the immediate area, your city, your county, as well as your state. All of that is local to you. Then of course, once you go outside of the state, that becomes national. Outside of your country is obviously international.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So that was some that really kind of changed my perspective of how to look at local opportunities as well. And so we had another person that asked a question. How can you tell if scholarships are legitimate?
Another popular question, especially now, especially this time of the year,
Hmm.
so many scams and things going on. So if we got any cybersecurity majors listening, you definitely will have a job for years to come. All right, so the scams. I look for common things like, do they ask me to pay up front? Because that's a no-no. That's a never thing.
Hmm.
Okay, there's no need to pay to apply for a scholarship. Doesn't even make sense.
Right.
So if they're asking for that, and I have seen that before. So definitely avoiding that. Also, if they're asking for sensitive details, and when I say sensitive, I'm talking about your social security number. That's a very sensitive piece of information. So they
Hmm.
should not be asking you for that up front. There's no need for that information at that time. So that's another red flag. If it's a company that I've absolutely never heard of, I can't find anything on them. That makes me I become a little bit concerned too. And so I mentioned this in the webinar is a lot of companies they are scored. They have a score from an organization called the BBB, the Better Business Bureau. And now that I'm talking to, if you don't see them on there for some reason, you can always go to your state's attorney general because they are a business, they are governed by laws, and if they are breaking laws, like we have seen some businesses do, when it comes to the scholarship piece, trust me, it will be public information, the lawsuit, everything. You'll be able to read and see what's going on, and also look for reviews as well. And IOU mentioned one that I wanted to throw out here is if their website looks sketchy, like
Yeah.
it's like 1,000 ads or just weird stuff on there.
Yeah.
It's like that old, like,
Old
I don't know when the
school,
internet first came out, but
1998 type
yeah,
look website. Yeah.
yeah, definitely
Hmm.
wanna bypass those.
Yeah, definitely. That's some great advice, Ashley. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, okay. All right. And then the one thing I want to add to that too is like some, not all organizations, but some actually do share previous winners as well.
Mhm.
So if you don't see previous winners or maybe essays of previous winners and you also have don't there's no connecting the dots of where this organization popped up from, you might want to just double check that. And if you do have questions of if whether a scholarship is legitimate, you can feel free to reach out to me or Ashley as well.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. So the next question is, how does an international student find more scholarships? So I get this question a lot, and I'm sure you do as well. When it comes to international students trying to secure funding or funding at all, like 100%, or just something to kind of help them not have to come out of pocket when it comes to paying for their education as they come into this country. Unfortunately, for international students, they're not eligible to receive any federal aid when it comes to paying for their education or support from the U.S. government. So what I find a lot of times is that you need to be very, very strategic in the list of schools that you put together when it comes to looking for scholarship money. Some schools will definitely tell you, once you go click on their website, go under admissions, they have a separate section for international students. And so when they do that, they specifically say what they're expecting from it or what they can offer international students. So some schools will say, hey, we don't give international students any funding. You're basically on your own. Or they might say, we do provide international students some money, but we're not going to pay your full out of pocket. Or some will say, well, as an international student, we treat you just like a US citizen or a US resident, and we will provide funding for you outside from their own endowment or their money that they've set aside for that incoming freshman class or incoming class period. So you want to make sure that you go to each of the school's websites. A lot of the universities who aren't able to help fund a student or provide additional support in funds of scholarships or merit scholarships or maybe institutional grants, they will be very specific about that information. So you want to make sure that you look at that before putting them on your list, because at the end of the day, you spend all that money to send your TOEFL scores, your SAT scores, you're paying the application fees, and sometimes the application fees, they charge the international students more. And so you're paying all this stuff, and then maybe you have to have your transcripts evaluated, and then only to find out that school is not a school that can give you money. So you want to make sure that that list is a list that they basically provide support to international students. And so that being said, if you have questions about what schools should be on your list, I would definitely recommend that you reach out to us. Also, there are some government agencies within different countries that do sponsor students to study abroad or study internationally. So I would also recommend that you check with your government website to see what they have available, and maybe you might be able to get sponsored to go to school outside of the country. So that's another thing that you can look into as well. Anything to add to that, Ashley?
I do a few
Mhm.
things. I mean, literally, it's funny. I know that we're answering this question because I just had a Facebook conversation with somebody coming from, I believe, Liberia, and
Oh
so they're
wow.
wanting to come over here and study in Philadelphia.
Oh wow.
And so I know, right?
Mhm.
It's so random, right? And so I want to say this, what I told him, is I said, here's the thing, because he kept saying, well, I'm coming from a war torn place and the woe is me conversation.
Mhm.
But I said, let me tell you something. I didn't know, I don't have that experience, it is
Mhm.
what it is. But I said, you have to think about this from the admissions perspective here. They're going through applications, and even if that school has a lot of international students, which is actually a good sign for those that are listening. It's a good sign. You should consider a school like that because they tend to have an office for those resources
Yep.
that includes scholarships. But at the same time, if you do not have some way of being competitive, if you don't know how to put together a competitive application, first of all, you need to contact Ayo immediately. Seriously, like ASAP, if you want to go to school in the next 18 months or so. You need to be reaching out because you can't just put oh, I'm from a war torn country. Oh, I'm living in poverty, so give me all the money. It doesn't work like that. You don't just wake up and you're going to be flown over here to this country and somebody's going to hand you all this money and you don't have anything, on paper that's attractive and you haven't put that piece together. So I
Right.
told him the same thing that I'm telling you
Mhm.
guys. So the second thing is this, and you just alluded to it, is you have to. So this is for the scholarship searching part. When you're an international student, wherever you go, you're studying abroad. So don't just look for international student scholarships. You
Hmm.
need to also be looking for study abroad scholarships, particularly obviously in the country where you wish to study. So that's a good tip for
Yes, that's really good. That's awesome. And then one other one I want to put out there is there is a U.S. government agency called U.S. Oh, I forgot their name. I'll put it in the chat later.
that. I
I
know
just
what you're talking about too.
it's USA dot. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot their name. But if you just Google maybe US United States of America education, something like that, it'll come up. But I'll when I find it, I'll put it in the chat as well. I can't believe I forgot their name.
I know I
All
was trying to
right.
look myself.
Okay. Yeah. If you find it, Ashley, let me know.
Okay.
All right. So the next question we have is, how do I appeal my financial aid package? That's a great question. I'm glad you're asking that question early. When it comes to your financial aid package, you want to make sure that you're getting all the money that's available to you that school can offer. And so the main thing you want to do is you want to confirm that you've completed and the school has received your FAFSA, your CSS profile if the school requires it, any state government forms that you might need to complete in order to restate aid. You want to make sure that you complete all the applications that are available to you. Now, once you have confirmed that all that has been done, as you start getting your financial aid offers, you want to start comparing them. Basically, I call it apples to apples. So you want to compare maybe your public state schools together, your liberal arts schools together, your Ivy League schools together, basically schools that are competitors to each other, so that you can see whether or not you might be able to get more aid from one school versus the other. But you really want to hold on to the school that is your top choice and really kind of compare it to all the other schools to see whether or not what does the financial aid package look like. So if, let's say for instance, school A is a school you really want to go to, but school B has a better package, you would now take that, and I'm generalizing all of this. If you really
Mhm.
want the details of this, please reach out before you make a mistake. But you would take the financial aid offer from school B and basically send it to school A. Now, you have to understand what the process is for financial aid appeals at each of the colleges you are planning on appealing your package at. Now, some schools will say straight up they don't do any appeals. Some schools will say, um, we may we may not, but I always say just go ahead and do it. Let the school now determine whether or not they will match it. They will increase what they gave you in the first place, or they'll just plain out just say no. But it's better to ask and know. Ask and you shall receive. It's kind of my motto when it comes to appeals, or maybe you won't receive, but at least you know, right? And then now use that as leverage and say, I really, really, really love your university. This has been my top choice school. And now explain to them why you need that extra money. So it might just be, oh, you just got a better offer from the other school. It might be there's something going on in your household that you need to share with the school as well. So maybe it being COVID, maybe you had a parent that lost, there's a loss of income in your home, maybe there's a death in your family. There's something that might come up that you might need to make the school aware of. So I kind of put two things together there. So if you just want to compare your financial aid offers and appeal it that way, that's fine. But you can also send appeals based on changes in your finances. And again, if you have questions about that, please let me know. And our details are below. Okay. All right. So, next question here. Okay. So, this question was, are scholarships only for high school seniors? It seems like I can't find anything. So, I'm thinking that this person's probably in high school and they I know I when I look for scholarships for students, sometimes it's just kind of the seniors kind of have the upper hand at the end of the day when it comes to scholarship opportunities. So what would you recommend for someone that's actually being active in looking for scholarships, but it seems like they can't find any and they're now a little bit deflated or discouraged?
So I'm gonna give two part advice. And again, I encourage you strongly to register for the webinar that we did. That way you can get, an entire process and an entire system that works. But I want to give two things. Number one, make sure that you are following some kind of process. 'Cause if you just kind of jumped in and you really don't know what you're looking for, frustration will set in very quickly.
Mm,
So make sure that you're doing an inventory on your abilities, your talents, your achievements, your hobbies. You don't want to leave anything, any dollar. You don't want to leave any of those opportunities on the table. For example, I know this from experience that a lot of high school seniors, they're only looking for scholarships for high school seniors, but you're more than
mm,
a high school senior. You
right.
have a gender, you have a residence, you have a career choice, you have a family, you may have different activities you're a part of. All of that encompasses who you are. And so make sure that you're looking for scholarships in all of those areas, not just your class or your title in terms of academics. The second thing, the second piece of advice that I want to give you is I want to encourage you is to build a network. You don't have to know where all the scholarships are. You just need to know people that can bring those opportunities to you or make you aware of them.
Hmm.
Same thing with me. I don't know where all of them are, but I have enough connections with people that it's okay because I know that I'm going to get them at the end of the day. So make sure that you're reaching out. Who should you be reaching out to? People like myself and Ayo, for example. We're professionals in the field. Your school counselors, your intended college, that financial aid team, the staff there. Make sure that you're reaching out. And of course, Ayo knows what I'm getting ready to say. But for those that are listening, get a LinkedIn account.
Yeah.
I cannot say it enough. And actually, a few people joined me. I can
Hmm.
tell from high school. So some of you are listening, and I've
Yeah.
been I've been accepting your requests. So keep
Mhm.
sending them. But please get on LinkedIn and get connected.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And you're right. I did start seeing some LinkedIn requests from some of the people that were part that joined the webinar. So
Yeah,
they took notes and they were listening. So that's really good. That's
I
awesome.
love it.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. All right. So the next question is, all right. Any tips on how to stay active in extracurriculars during a pandemic? So, what I've been hearing and what I've been advising students to do at this point really is to start thinking outside of the box when it comes to your extracurricular activities, right? This is a year of it's never happened before. So everything that was status quo, all those structured programs that we kind of defaulted to that would happen in the summer, you would apply in the spring and then they would select you, you would do an interview, or those what I call pay to play type programs, everything somewhat either got completely canceled or they shifted those programs online. And so, what I'm advising students to do is you really need to stand out in your extracurricular activities. We need you to take an initiative of solving a problem within your community, within your state, the world, whatever. I need you to think about taking what you're really interested in and solving a problem with it. So for instance, I had a student who really loves to bake. During this time, she decided to fundraise using the food that she was baking to um, help fundraise for toys for children that were in need. And so that's what she did. I had another student who was very involved in local government as far as the education is concerned in his county. He found out that this school was going on pass fail. He used his social media account to make all the students that he knew um, that followed him aware that they're going to a pass fail system, and he explained exactly why it was not going to work for them, especially those students. At that point, he did that during his junior year, end of his junior year. So he was a rising senior. So he was able to influence the county, the public school representatives to let them know that, hey, we have a voice. You can't just change this, have a whole program or meeting about this, and we aren't there to represent ourselves. So from that and the feedback and the signed petitions that he got, he was able to get them to change it from pass fail to actually being a graded system. So he saw that there was a problem, and his government and social or civil issues is his kind of his passion, and so he used his influence to make a change. So that's what I'm advising students right now. Take your passions, find a problem, solve that problem. And I think that will kind of help you work through the situation of not being able to find something to do because your normal activities have been canceled. In addition, I know some schools have been slow to start, but they have started doing the online with their, whether it's Zoom or Teams, to now kind of facilitate their normal in-person meetings, but in a virtual environment. So just see what's going on. Maybe there is a club that could probably happen online, but no one's willing or no one has taken the initiative to do it. A normal club in your school. Maybe it's FBLA or whatever. I don't know. I can't think of any clubs right now, but maybe it's a normal club that you would have been involved in. See if you can get in touch with the sponsor to see if they can go ahead and shift that club online, and you kind of leave that initiative to bring that club back.
And I wanted to just throw in, I know on the admission side, and guys, it's the same thing for scholarships. I just wanted to
Mhm.
echo that it's no different. But the last thing you said, Ayo, was straight gold. So I don't know if you guys like are taking notes, but you need to, or watch this live a few times again. But it is so important that you don't just say, oh man, there's not an organization for my interest or something that fits me. So that's a pass to do nothing. Let me say that again. If you don't find an organization, if one doesn't exist, that's not a pass to sit and do nothing. You can take the initiative. Like I'll just share that amazing story. You have influence, you have power. And I said this in the webinar, which I hope you're registering for. If you didn't, is you're a brand, and you have to recognize that you are a brand. So if no one is mentoring students that want to be a journalist, and you want to be a journalist, start writing your own articles
Mhm.
on LinkedIn, write your own post on
Right.
Facebook, make your own videos on YouTube.
Mhm.
Nobody, you don't have to wait for that kind of stuff. So take
No.
initiative.
I think you really, honestly, this day and age, you don't have to wait for anyone to give you a pass or give you
Mm-mm.
open the door. Use technology to your advantage. Do a podcast. Use it in IG. Use the TikTok. I don't have the app, but use TikTok. I hear that's
Right, all that.
the thing now. I mean, you can really definitely become a subject matter expert in your own right by leveraging
Mhm.
technology. And so the more people hear from you, the more people realize you know what you're talking about, then you can now use that as an avenue or a platform on your application when you're applying to college, just to let them know that you were just you were interested in making a change and you leveraged technology to do so.
That's right.
All right. Okay. All right. So one student asked, how can you make your profile look really good on scholarship websites?
Good question. Actually, what we were, I know we were just answering another question, but that really kind of feeds into this one too. Is make sure that you're doing things and you're engaged in activities that you can add to your profiles.
Mm,
Because I think, and I have to say, I was naive when I was beginning this process in high school. I thought like, oh, I got the GPA. I was dually enrolled. I had the college credits,
mhm,
and I'm like, oh, I'm involved. I was in the band and drill team and all this stuff, right? He had some volunteer hours, and I thought I could smooth sail into Kent State. And I had a serious wake up call, okay? So here's the thing
mm,
is you've got to be active. That way you can add those
yep.
things to your profile. Another basic tip, and I know it's going to sound super basic, but it's so important, is just completing the profile. It should be more than just your name and where you live, because there are so many different types of scholarships. And let me plug this in there. By the way, in a few days, literally, myself and Ayo, we're going to be having a virtual scholarship search party. So if you don't even know what I'm talking about right now, that's reason enough for you to register. right now. Because here's the thing, you don't know what you don't know. And so if I were you, I would not let 2021 come here. I wouldn't let it come here and you don't have a plan, you don't have a strategy. Because here's the thing, you can't control the price tag of the college. We don't have that control, but you can control how much you're personally going to pay for your degree. That you can control. And so, along with, working with amazing experts like Ayo and her team and companies like that, where you can get your FAFSA and get your admissions and get your applications right, you also have to be working on the other side of it, which is the scholarships. And so if you're frustrated, maybe you have a profile and maybe you're not getting the results that you want, it could be some simple tweaks that you need to make. And so if that's you, or if you're the parent or the family member that's watching, you need to register your child. We only have a limited amount of spots, and I'm talking about like 10, because we really want to make sure that every student leaves with their strategy. You're going to get scholarships, minimum $10,000, but I always go over and give you extra because I just believe in that. You're going to have a workbook. You get a chance to work with me one on one. I'm going to assess you. I was going to be there because you got to get your scholarship essay topics together and get that straight.
Hmm.
So, yes, if you need help with your profiles and you're not liking the results, definitely need to register. And I know you'll share the link where they can do that.
Yes, yes, I have. So definitely it's going to happen this this Saturday, actually, this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can register at bit.ly/USC party, bit.ly/USC party. The link is in the chat. All right. Okay, so let's go to the next question, Ashley. Let me go. Okay, so we talked about the profile. All right, and then we have. Okay, do you apply for scholarships when you're pressed for time?
And I think we talked about this. You can answer it in a couple of different ways. I
Mhm.
believe, if I'm correct, is it when you have a busy schedule?
Let's go through it, in a couple of different angles. Let's say if there's a busy
Okay.
schedule.
Okay. So
Mhm.
let me tackle that one first. And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but you need to register for this webinar so you can get like the full conversation that I and I had. But here's the thing. I think we have to change how we think about this because everyone is busy,
Mhm.
including Io and myself. So we're not exempt from being busy. We're in a different kind of busy now. But
Yeah.
everyone's busy. We're not going to argue with you and say you're not because we know you are. But here's the thing when it comes to scholarships, and I'm sure I could probably say the same thing for the admission side. It's not how much time you have, it's what you're doing with the time you have. Let me say it another way, it's not quantity of time, it's quality of time. So we got to switch the cues around
Mhm.
and focus on the quality. But with that being said, let me say this too, is this has to become a priority. This has to become a top priority for you. So when it comes to an hour, and I love watching football, okay? I'm the only girl of two boys, siblings. But when it comes to watching the NFL for 2.5 hours or looking for scholarships, you better believe I can look at the replay on YouTube later of the
Mhm.
game, and I'm going to be searching for scholarships because here's the thing: at the end of the day, like I just said, there's a tuition bill coming. For some of you, I'm sure you already know what it is, and you probably don't know how you're going to pay for it right now because it's probably why you're joining us, so we can help you with that. So you have to decide: is this worth it? Because what's on the other side of that? If you're not willing to put in the time, then that means you're willing to take on the student loan, which means if you do the numbers, you're going to pay more at the end of the day. It's just numbers.
Yes, it
It's just
is.
how it works. So you have to
Mm.
find a way to maximize the time you do have, but also make it a priority. So, for example, let me start you out with you need a list of scholarships, right? You probably don't know where to start. If you would like a ready made list, go ahead and register for Saturday. You're going to get a list. Not only will you get a list, you're going to have your strategy. So that way you can carry this out in 2021. And honestly, let me tell you, that's what you're missing. You don't have a plan. And so some of you are getting frustrated and then you don't know where to search. So why don't you knock out both of those problems and register? on Saturday, and we will solve those problems for
Exactly. Good one. Good one. I love that, Ashley. So, yeah, so I think that was the last of the questions that we have. But before we go, Ashley, I just want to actually give you an opportunity to share more about you, how people can connect with you, and what you're doing, and any resources that you have for the community.
Sure. So, first of all, guys, I've enjoyed this. This is what I'd love to do. So, I again thank you for opening up your platform and the space to really educate those that are watching. You can find me right here on Facebook. The best place is actually to join. I have a private free group. It's called The Scholarship Bank. You can go to facebook.com/groups/ The Scholarship Bank, or just search it. Search one in the top of the search bar there on Facebook, and we'll come right up. There's no cost to join us, and I'm constantly putting resources in there. I'm answering questions, so that's really, I would say, the best place to get in touch with me. I'm on Instagram at Prep FOUR College. Again, that is Prep FOUR College. On Twitter at Prep FOR College. On Facebook, the page Prep number 4 College. Also have a website, www.collegeprepready.com. And in terms of what I do, is I love supporting professionals and family members and those that are working with you, the students. So I support them to help support you as well in finding scholarships so that you don't have to graduate in tons of debt. And a lot of this, what I've shared here, is coming from my most recent book. I've got a few of them, but the most recent one is called How to Pay for College During a Pandemic. This is a really different time on the admission side and the scholarship side. And I don't want you guys to be behind or get lost in the chaos of the moment. So you can get that on the website as well. But yeah, guys, just seek out help. It's okay not to know right now, but it's not okay to stay in the not knowing.
Mm,
You may not know what to do right now, but don't remain there. Reach out to
exactly.
us, Ayo with admissions, myself with scholarships, so you can get the help that you need.
Yes, that's awesome. And I've dropped the link to your book in the chat as well. And then also the link to your Facebook group. So if people are looking for more
Thank you.
information on scholarships as well, they can reach out to you directly. Ashley and I work together as well. So if you're looking for help with college admissions and scholarship, we come together and support all our families, and so that they get the best information, best support possible to make sure that they don't have to take out massive amounts of student loans when it comes to the college admissions process. So I'm going to say, if you know you're going to have a tuition bill at the end of the day, you need to reach out to us so we can help you walk you through the process of how to reduce how much you have to take in debt. And one thing you mentioned is that interest, Ashley. That interest, I think taking out the student loans is one thing, but the
Yeah,
interest, oh
my God.
Lord, the interest is probably
Years.
a whole nother student loan by itself. It's crazy. So just be mindful of that, and just be very strategic about taking out the loans. We're not saying don't take out loans, but just take out what you need. Don't take out what
Hmm.
you want. Take out what you need and budget properly to do so. And so if you need help with the college admissions process, you could reach us. My info is kind of scrolling at the bottom of the screen. You can reach us in our Facebook group. We're on Instagram at USCE Experts. And then, like I said, our email is scrolling through. It's info@uscexperts.com. So, Ashley, thank you once again for joining
You're
me.
welcome.
I'm
Thank
really
you.
excited about Saturday and all the parents and the students that we will help alleviate the stress of looking for scholarships. And I think that's normally the question: where do we find scholarships? And when you have Google, that's sometimes a question I'm always like, why is that even a question? But it's so much information at you, and you don't know what's for you, specific to you. And again, during the webinar that we had last week, you really talked about that scholarship resume to help you kind of zero in on what scholarships that you should be focused on. So go ahead and check the replay of the webinar. It's bit.ly/USCE COVID And then also, if you are interested in being a part of our virtual scholarship party, it's bit.ly/USCE party. And so we are looking forward to hearing from you. And if you have any questions, even after this replay is done, you can also leave them in the chat. Ashley and I will also be looking at that as well. You have a great evening. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you. You guys take care.
All right, bye bye.